Welcome back to the Marketing Agents Podcast. Today we're doing things a little bit different, getting out of my comfort zone. Normally, I record everything via Skype and call recorder, but today I'm going to be recording everything through a Google Hangout. And why not? Because we have the Hangout Helper with us. Ronnie Bincer is here, a coach and master trainer, everything Google Hangouts. He actively empowers others to harness technology and apply it to their own industries. Following his leads, thousands of people worldwide are mastering the use and power of social media, video, broadcast communications, and discoverability online. Ronnie is a featured speaker internationally and has the exceptional ability to communicate both the how and the why to groups with varying levels of experience on the subject matter, which is going to help because I don't know much about Google Hangouts. Ronnie has a unique ability to assist various industries and market niches to blend the visual strength of a Hangout broadcast with other tools to communicate their message in the most impactful and effective way possible. He daily communicates his game-changing techniques and insights through a members-only community called Hangout Mastery. We're going to give you that URL in the show notes. Ronnie, thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I'm glad to be part of your Hangout, some of your early Hangout experiences. I'm expecting and hoping you'll have more in the future.
Yeah, I've only done this a couple times. I'm enjoying it. The quality of the video is really great right now, and I'm on a Wi-Fi connection, so this is very cool. And so we'll also have the video component of this, and again, we'll link to this in the show notes. So if you're listening in your car radio or wherever, and you want to go check out what Ronnie and I look like, you totally can. All right, so Ronnie, how did you get so passionate about Google Hangouts?
I imagine I became most passionate because I didn't even start with Hangouts. I started with Google Plus, and when I did stuff in Google Plus, I treated it differently than many. I started looking at it from an SEO perspective, search engine optimization.
Yes.
And I was quite shocked and amazed at how well it performed for me. And there's a little story there we can cover later if you want, but what happened is I had moved into the realm of SEO and specialized in video SEO before Google Plus ever existed. And so it was just a natural thing for me to poke around at this video tool so I could meet people and chat with them and get to know them. And then they eventually came out with the broadcast version, which is what we're doing, the Hangout on Air thing. And then it was just a no-brainer for me because I knew how to optimize the videos that a lot of people never did after they did their shows. They just do their show and they're done. As far as I'm concerned, you're creating content when you're using this Hangout on Air broadcast thing, and what you do with that content, there's a lot that can happen afterwards.
All right, we definitely want to get to that because I love SEO and I love video SEO, so we definitely want to talk about that for sure. Now, right now, as I mentioned, this is not what I'm used to doing. I usually use Skype and a call recorder. So can you walk us through exactly what we're doing today, just for the people who are listening or watching at home?
You bet. We are meeting inside what's technically called right now an unlisted Hangout on Air, because you and I are just chatting with each other and no one else is watching it live. But YouTube is doing the heavy lifting and actually making a recording of this live. So when we're done, within 5 minutes or less, there's a video.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And so the normal version that many people will use when they're in this Hangout on Air environment is a show, like a broadcast, and people are watching and interacting with it live, which is another thing. I just did another one less than an hour ago, and I have another one later. So I'm really big into the broadcast part. I train people how to do this. But then there's another valuable component, which is similar, because I want to try to give an idea of all the breadth that you could have with this tool.
Sure.
There is the private video conversation that does not need to be recorded at all. It's just me meeting you and talking about stuff, or up to 10 people in this video room where we can all communicate and share our information and collaborate. And that does not need to be recorded or broadcast.
All right, so it's actually a networking tool as well, or a group communication tool if you've got employees or independent contractors around the country or around the world.
Exactly, and I've seen companies, even though they might be in the same building, actually open up a Hangout because it's just quicker, easier to ask a question real fast. It's like making a phone call, but what you get is you get the visual cues that you cannot get on the phone as to whether, that made sense, it clicked with that person right then, or no, you need to explain a little bit better. So the
like to know what, yeah.
I was going to say that visual clue is just massively important to me.
I like to know when my employees are rolling their eyes when I talk to them. So this
Exactly.
would be a critical part of the Flight New Media going
It
forward.
could. Now, they'll probably turn off their video cameras so they can roll their eyes, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally reminded of that Jetsons episode where they have the masks that they put on before they get on the video phone. So
I've shared that video of the morning mask is what it's
yes,
called. Yep,
awesome.
I know that one. Yep.
So the Jetsons finally did come true. All right, so if we've never, all right, one thing I want to talk about is, so we make this video, you and I, we do this show, you've got your own show, you put it out there, and I assume that this is going to a channel that you've already created on YouTube, like that's associated with your Google Plus account?
That's correct. Every account on Google Plus that's a profile, meaning a person, is automatically connected to a YouTube channel in one way, shape, or form.
All right, so this is where it gets confusing because Google keeps on changing the rules when it comes to how things are connected. At least that's my opinion of things. So I have, years ago I started a YouTube account for the Rich Brooks where I was just putting up like weird family stuff, and then I had a business account at YouTube, although it wasn't called a business account, for Flight New Media. Then Google Plus comes out. Now I create a personal profile, as Google told me to, for the Rich Brooks, even though I'm not allowed to call it that, and that's a whole other issue I have with Google, but regardless, for my personal brand, and then off of that I create a business page for Flight New Media. Now, is there a way that I could create stuff for Flight New Media and have it automatically sync with a different YouTube channel because Flight New Media's YouTube channel has not been able to connect with its Google Plus account just because of the rules that Google set up? That was a very complex question. I hope
It
you
is.
captured all that.
It's a complicated world when you have multiple email addresses that you're using and you've got multiple profiles, possibly by accident, and maybe you've made a page that's connected, which is a business page, connected to one of the emails but not the right one, and you need to move stuff around. It's a mess. And I deal with that mess daily. I help people navigate with that. I don't have the mess, but I know lots of people that do. So I try to help them move things around. And they've made it even more difficult, they meaning YouTube and Google together, unfortunately. They've made it so that it's much less self-service. You actually need to now request that YouTube tech support help you. They have a special form for it, but you have to actually ask them to move things around when you need to change things. Many times, when I work with a client, I say, you know what, are there any real videos or any real value to that particular YouTube channel that you accidentally got connected? And if they say no, then we just make a new one, we connect it, and we're done. But if there's stuff out there that you want to keep and you want to keep the engagement that you've already got for that particular channel, you can move things around, but you have to go through a process, and it's a little bit tricky.
All right, and you said there's a form at YouTube, a help form?
Mm-hmm. There is.
All right, maybe we can link to that
yeah,
in
we
the
can
show
link
notes.
to that. What I've done, though, is when I meet with my clients, I help them write up the wording so that it only goes back and forth once or twice with the people.
Nice.
I promise you, if you don't do it correctly, you will be having an interesting conversation for many times.
Wonderful. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
All right, so you and I are doing this one-on-one, and then it's automatically being recorded. But if we wanted to bring other people in, if we wanted to make this a group conversation, what process might we do to bring more people in?
The process is relatively simple if you are the host, meaning the person that started the conversation. This is a broadcast, so because of that, it's a Hangout on Air. Mm-hmm. And when you're a Hangout on Air, in general, it's like my great learning has driven me mad. I can't say a simple answer, but here's the simplest I can get to. If the host invites somebody else in, they can come on in. If you, as an additional guest, want to bring someone else, you basically either need to tell the host who to invite,
right,
or send your friend a special link that the host can give you that you can then use as an invitation. Because in general, these broadcast things, you don't want people just bopping in out of the middle of nowhere, because that would be bad, generally. Right. And so you control who gets to come in by sending an invitation, and the host is the easiest one who's able to send that, but others can do it as well.
All right, so if I want to do a broadcast, I'm probably, just like on a TV show, going to invite my guests on. We're going to do this. We may allow other people to watch this, right? You can set it up so people can watch the live one.
Definitely.
And they can even send questions in, right? They can do chats and stuff like that.
It becomes very, very interactive. You can have people in the audience watching, asking questions live, and you on the inside can see those questions. There's certain tools we've got that allow you to see the questions. You could even bring those questions right onto the screen if you wanted to, which I think is very, very engaging with the audience that way. And it's live, very interactive.
That's very awesome. All right, so let's say that we've done that. You and I have done our show. We're excited, or let's just say I'm a small business owner, which I am a small business owner, but let's say that I am. And I do my broadcast, and I put in it, so it automatically goes up to YouTube if I've configured things correctly. Now, it sounds like there's some things that we can do to optimize this video for SEO. So what are some of the easy things that, as a small business owner, I can do to make sure that more people are going to find and watch my Hangout on air up on YouTube?
You bet. I'm going to treat this as if people don't know much about SEO and accelerate really fast into nerdy stuff real fast.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay. So with any video, whether it's a Hangout on Air video or a recorded video that you're putting on YouTube, some of the key components are your title, your what's called the description area, and the tags. Those are the three main areas that you get to edit, and you're going to want to have in the title the primary keyword phrase or the words that you think people are interested in searching for that will give you the result of your video. So that's your goal, is to figure out what is it they're searching for and use that text in the title. And here's the nerdy part. Don't use it at the end of the title, use it at the beginning. The first few words in a title of a video will get more Google juice, if you call it that, than the last few words. Also, I'd like to tell people to repeat that title somewhere appropriately, the keywords from it, inside the description text. You should be saying it multiple times because hopefully the title ties to what you're actually talking about in the video. So it's easy for you in the description to say, in this video we talk about blah, 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 and you're using those keyword phrases. The hidden part, the part that people don't see, is what's called tags. This is equivalent in the old days to what were called keywords on a website for the meta keyword thing.
Right, the meta keyword, sure.
Okay, those are built in, and they're still part of YouTube, and they still work, and they still work really well. So what I encourage people to do is, especially if you're doing multiple videos, whether they're Hangout on Air or just regular videos, put in some unique keywords, maybe the business name or your personal name, in every single video you do as a tag. It's not bothersome, it doesn't get in the way, but what it does is it helps group all your videos together. On the right sidebar, when you're watching a video inside YouTube, there's suggested follow-up videos or related videos. They're all going to start to populate with your own stuff if you have a consistent keyword tag from video to video to video.
Good stuff. All right, so if I just want to recap this. So let's say I'm a professional organizer. I have a professional organizer show, and I've decided that today we're going to talk about closet organizing. Maybe I bring in an expert in that. We do a conversation, and I make sure I have something, a title like Closet Organizing, How to Make the Most of Your Closet Space as my title. And then I go and I use it in the description as well, maybe a couple times, and then I make sure I use those words and maybe the name of my company and my own name in those tags, because that's going to help with all those related videos. Is that pretty much what you're telling us is a good way to go about it?
That is, and a little ninja trick, because you're going to say Closet Organizer. Well, you might also want to put in Closet Organizing in these tags. You do different slight variations of that, and if Closet Organizer, was it Organizer or Ing? I forget which one.
I forget which one I said.
Okay, let's just say Closet Organizing, okay? That's your primary one. I would also add a tag that's just the word closet, and then another tag that's the word organizing, because someone might search for it in, I need organizing of my closet, and if you didn't get it worded just right, you might miss that. So it's good to break those multi-word phrases into individual words as well.
Right. So a lot of the stuff that's true with SEO in general is also true in video SEO. And obviously, if you are a professional organizer, you know that words like clutter and declutter would be key for your business, so you might want to include those. Now, one thing I've heard about video is that YouTube actually listens to what we're saying in the videos, and that's part of the algorithm. So I'm assuming that we should also, in this case, be saying things, we should be using the words in our description. So we should be saying out loud, well, we're going to be talking about organizing your closet today, so if you're interested in closet organization, so on and so forth. Not unnaturally, but in the normal course of speaking.
Exactly. If you can do it naturally, which hopefully you can, this is the reason why you've named the video what you've named it and why you're talking about it, because you're going to use those words. So it's a natural occurrence if you do it planned. If you don't know what you're doing and then later you add the keywords, you're going to have more of a difficult time. So it's best to think in your mind ahead of time, what are the primary keyword phrases I want to make sure we talk about, and then do your best to talk about them when you're doing your show. And then the text that is actually crawlable, because they transcribe it. They try to turn it into words that they can read. That it does a pretty good job, not always, but you can go in and fix that and tweak it. But as long as it matches the things, the title, and the things you're talking about, then there's going to be a better match for Google's perspective. And when I say Google, it also means YouTube.
Sure.
Okay. And so as a result, it's going to help it match the search that the people are looking for, and therefore you've got all your cylinders playing together, or they're all working together, and it really helps make it work out.
So consistency in those keywords is going to be critically important to us.
Yeah, this is an old SEO trick. I don't know if it's valid or not, but I still do it. Is I will use those keywords at the beginning of my video and somewhere near the middle, if I can remember where that is, and then I'll definitely repeat it at the end.
I'm almost thinking of like the old Sesame Street, not so old, but still, Sesame Street would be like, today's episode is brought to you by the letter N. Like, you could be like, today's episode is brought to you by Closet Organizing, you know, and do that at the beginning and the end of each show. If you use that, totally give me props for that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
All right. So let's see. We talked about the video SEO. That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit, move back a step, and if we're going to use Google Hangouts, one of the things that we might run into is maybe not all of our contacts are on Google+. Is there a way of bringing them into the fold, not against their will necessarily, but how do we bring people into a Google Hangout if they're not necessarily using Google+?
Yeah, it's a very common question. At least I'm asked it a lot. And one of the best meeting grounds is a common area called YouTube. A lot of people watch videos on YouTube. So you can point people to your Hangout on Air as it's being broadcast live. You can point them to the video link of the show. And that can be done by sending them an email. Let's say they're on an email list. Or if you work with them in another social environment, you can send that link right there. So it's not, you don't have to draw them necessarily in to the Google Plus world unless you need them inside the video part. Then they actually need to be a player in that world. Otherwise, it's just a video. And that video can be posted on your website, right? You can stick a video embed. Just because it's a embed doesn't mean you can't work with a Hangout on Air. It's a live show that shows up in that embed. And when you're done with the live show, it just automatically turns into a video that's still in that same embed holder. So there's nothing for you to change between the live and the post-live, meaning the recorded side. And not only on your website, but you could show it in Facebook, you can show it in LinkedIn, you can show it on Twitter. Anywhere that you can send a link of a video, you can send out the broadcast link.
While it's going on live or just after the fact?
No, while it's live.
Awesome.
You can even do it before it's live.
Now, a lot of people, of course, are on Google+, but they don't know they're on Google+, because they have a Gmail account, and at some point they were upgraded to Google+, and they may not know that. So,
don't you love that word, upgraded?
Upgraded, yeah, exactly. So if I know that somebody has a Gmail address, can I invite them to a Google+ Hangout? Now, odds are they're actually going to be able to be part of that as my guest.
Yes, that is correct. As long as they do, somehow that, it's technically called a Google account. It's not even a Google Plus account. It's a Google account. If they have a Google account, and nowadays, by the way, even if you're trying to interact with YouTube, you still have to have a Google account.
Oh, I know.
Add any comments, okay? Then they have an account that'll allow them into the Hangout film strip, is what I call it, inside the video room. So yeah, it works.
Some very cool stuff. I'm excited just what we talked about, but I know that when you and I spoke before, one of the things you said is Google Hangouts help build relationships. Can you elaborate on that?
You bet. That's something, to me, that's the biggest thing about it. Besides the broadcast and the show, it's allowed me to reach out to people literally all over the world and build a relationship. And the easiest way to say it is if I've seen somebody interacting online somewhere, and I decide, you know what, I like what they're talking about, I just want to get to know them a little bit, I will then send them either a private message or in a public environment and say, hey, I'd love to hang out with you sometime. Would you be interested? They say yes, and then I click a couple buttons, and now we're in a video room. What that means is I now can meet with them no matter literally where they are in the world. Doesn't matter. And then from then on, I'm growing in my relationship with them so that from that point on, if I see text that they've done, it has a different feel for me because I've met them. And it's strange, but I have some really, really good friends that I've never met in real life, but I hang out with them almost every single day.
That's very cool. And I know that's true because you definitely get a different feel when you're talking with somebody in video rather than just hearing their voice or trading emails back and forth with them. So it is a good way. It's not the same as being face-to-face, but we live in a time and a place that face-to-face isn't always possible. This is the closest thing the internet can sometimes give us.
Now, with the communication with the verbal and the visual, here's what happens sometimes. I'll be typing text with someone, they'll be typing, and we'll go back and forth and back and forth. It's like, let's just hang out because I can get this done faster. And that literally is what I do nowadays. We'll do a little chat and say, are you ready? Can you join me? Yes, no, yes. Okay, boom, you're in the video call. You get through the process. It's easier to work out the misunderstandings and get to the resolution, and then you both move on. Really, really helpful. I have found it to be almost indispensable now. I just can't just do a webinar without having the visuals.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up today, tell me one thing that we should think about as we're thinking about Google Hangouts, like one tip or tactic, something that we should do as small business people if we're trying to, this show's all about reaching more of your ideal customers. So what can you tell us that's going to help us with that in regards to Google Hangouts?
It's going to be an odd one, but here we go.
Okay.
It's going to say, don't try to jump into the Hangout right away. Try to jump into the conversations around the Hangout that others are having, because this allows you to identify other commenters that are active in another video where someone else is running it, and you get to see what they're talking about. You get to easily identify who they are based on their level of interest, and then you build this relationship in the comments before you ever get into the video with them, and now you all of a sudden have an audience because you've created a following almost because you've done some good interactions with your comments. So I know that might not have been exactly what you're asking for.
No, that's great, but I just want to make sure I understand it. So you're saying go to other people's Hangouts, that might be a broadcast, Hangouts on Air,
right,
and engage through the chats. So I start to build up relationships similar to like leaving comments on blogs.
Yes.
And from there, that's how I'm going to build up an audience, and then I take the next step into having my own Hangout?
I would think so. It's worked out really well for me and other people. It's a way for you to get known in a less threatening environment because people don't have to respond to you right away. They can just read it whenever they want.
Great stuff. So I know we just scratched the surface, and I can visually see your passion for the subject. So, Ronnie, where can we learn more about you and what you're up to?
Well, if you're watching the video right in here, you can see me right here, the Hangout Helper. I've got a little identifier underneath it's called the lower third. It's down the bottom. TheHangoutHelper.com is my website. So you can go there. From there, you'll either just learn a bunch of stuff, you can sign up for a newsletter, or you can go in for what I call the deep dive, which is the picture behind me, which is the Hangout Mastery, and that's a membership environment where we've got lots of people learning together and helping each other, because one of the biggest tips is when you're starting this, you're going to need to play. You need to experiment, and sometimes it's nice to be able to do that with other people that are also just playing. And so we've got a lot of people in that community that are helping each other learn and actively participate with each other's Hangouts, and you have a built-in audience. Really cool.
That's great, and of course, as always, we're going to have all the links in the show notes. This has been great, and I know that I've learned a lot today. I'm sure that there's a lot of people listening right now who are ready to give Google Hangouts a try. So, Ronnie, I just want to thank you once again for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.